Britain on a day the country has chosen a new course.
Let June the 23rd go down in our history as our Independence Day.
It's a business and you want your business to do as well as possible, and if you're not in control of your business, you're never going to build it, are you?
He doesn't want Europeans here, he doesn't want anything to do with Europe. The man's, and he hides under a cloak of respectability, which this programme is giving him.
You know, the EU costs the UK £50 million a day.
What? How will this impact on local farmers, retailers and the public? In the next 15 minutes we will learn how much this will impact on their daily lives.
Peter Kennedy, and I have been farming now for approximately 42 years. When I left school, I went to work on the farm with my father, and then when he got on in years, I took over from him. Well, every day, first thing, we get up about 6 o'clock in the morning and we'll start to milk the cows. And then after milking, we have to feed them. In the winter time, we have to feed them and clean them out, and just general veterinary practices and things to do with the cows. I think the best thing about farming is you're your own boss and you're outside most of the time, whether the weather's good or not, but I like being outdoors. We specialise in dairying, mainly dairying, milking cows. We keep some beef, but not so many. Cows is our main feed.
We're here at Tyrone Farmers Market. We trade here every first and third Saturday of the month, and I am a craft worker. I make these baskets. I actually didn't Jodie vote for Brexit because I live across the border. I live in County Monaghan, so I don't have a vote. But certainly if I had an address in the north, I would have voted. It's hard to say. We don't get a huge cross-border trade here. We're just that little bit further away from the border. So I don't think it will be hugely affected by Brexit because we're local. We're all about local food for local people, and people are always going to need to eat, and they're always going to come to Tyrone Farmers Market for their spuds, for their milk, for their fish, and for all their other supplies.
My name's Rosie Brownlee, and I'm married to a farmer, Ian, who grows all these vegetables at home, and then I help with the markets at the weekends. I did vote in Brexit, and I voted to leave the EU. I'm not really sure if it'll make much difference to farmers, but time will tell. Hopefully it will. Well, hopefully things will maybe get better prices, or things will improve with it, because at the minute things just aren't right. We'll be hoping to get better prices and to sell more produce that will grow locally.
My name's Sean Meehan, and I'm from Damore in Tyrone, and I'm in university at the minute studying computer science. On the weekends I help on the farm, sell the produce that we make, which is all pork related, mostly bacon. I didn't vote in Brexit, not out of badness or anything like that, just never got around to doing it. Very busy at the minute with different things going on. Honestly, I'm not very sure. I haven't really been keeping an eye on the news that much this weather, so when the Brexit came as a bit of a shock, and still learning more and more about it and what it does and why it has happened.
Well, we're in the fish business now. Yes, that's the job I do all my life. Yes, and we do different markets all the time. Don't follow vote, no. Well, I'm not in I'd be more to know to do with the fishing, and they tell me now that they think that most of the fishermen voted to leave the European. The price of fish is going up. That's all I can tell you since it started. The price of the cost of the euro again, the sterling. Yes.
My name's Raymond. I'm a butcher here in the Moy Square 5 days a week. The shop's open 6 days a week. I've been here for over 20 years, and job would involve starting early in the morning around 7:30 and getting the shop set up for customers and serving, and then we manufacture our own bacon, sausages, and we bone out our own beef. We do things the traditional way, which leaves things a bit slower, but it's what we do. and that's what I do on a daily basis. I did. I was very near not voting because I thought it was guaranteed to stay in, and it wasn't even worth voting, but I didn't vote. Yeah. Well, I wanted to stay in, and if you haven't asked me yet, but I did vote to stay in because I wanted to stay in Europe. That's why I liked the way things were going. I was happy enough. Well, I'm hearing a bit of a mixture. There's some of them delighted that they're out. Probably they're thinking more because of regulations and things like that. And some are just wondering where the money's going to come out of. So I'm hearing a bit of both sides of it. At the moment, we would have seen a slight increase in buying beef off the wholesalers at the beginning, and that seems to have subsided at the minute and come back to where it was. But we don't feel as though we're affected at the moment, trade-wise, or prices at the moment.
I voted no in Brexit just for the simple reason I really didn't know. I hadn't heard enough evidence to vote yes, so I didn't want to leave because I was uncertain of the future. I was slightly disappointed with the news because the majority of people in Northern Ireland wanted to remain, but there was, whenever they took Northern Ireland as part of the United Kingdom, it was voted to leave, so I was slightly disappointed in that way.
My name is Michelle Gildernew. I'm an Assembly member for Fermanagh South Tyrone. I live here in the constituency of Fermanagh South Tyrone. I'm up in Belfast 4 days a week because I'm currently on the Vice Chair of the Communities Committee and on the Public Accounts Committee. But I'm very passionate about the needs of rural communities, and I suppose that has focused all of the work I've done over the years. I did a while as Chair of the Health Committee. I served as Agriculture Minister for 4 years, and I was on the Department of Social Development Committee and other committees in my time in the Assembly. I also was MP for Fermanagh South Tyrone for a few years, but not anymore. I'm very concerned about Brexit, very worried indeed that that it will have a major impact not just on our economy but on the lives of everybody in Ireland, North and South. Having worked as Agriculture Minister and back and forth to Europe, dealing with some of the challenges that we had dealing with the border. So farmers, for example, were living on one side of the border, maybe buying feed or getting animals slaughtered on the other side of the border, and all of the challenges across a national boundary, I feel like. When Brexit happens, that is going to be a transnational boundary. So you'll have people in Auchnacloy who are not in Europe, and people in Emmy Vale who are European citizens, and the whole issue around how goods, services and people move across that border is something that really concerns me. I did indeed, and I canvassed people to vote, and I voted to remain. North of Ireland voted in a majority to remain. I think that the European Union is not perfect and our relationship isn't perfect, but it's much better than the alternative, and the fact that that alternative is still, we don't know what that alternative looks like yet, is also a concern. First of all, farmers are concerned about losing their single farm payment. If you take the agricultural output in the north of Ireland and what farmers are paid for their produce, they would not be able to make a profit had it were it not for the single farm payment. So if you like, the single farm payment subsidises, I know that's not a word we like to use, but subsidises farmers to produce food. And if farmers are currently, for example, dairy farmers are working below the cost of production. So if it costs X amount of pay to produce a litre of milk and you're getting paid Y, and Y is lower than X, that's not a good place to be. A business might be able to sustain that for a little while. Every business goes through peaks and troughs, and there's, you know, good times and quieter times. Dairying has had that they've been losing money over the past 2 years. Suckler, cow and beef production here in the north of Ireland, sheep production, all of those areas are very, very difficult to make a profit. And without the single farm payment, I think a lot of farmers just will give up and say, you know what, it's not worth my while anymore. I'm losing money, I'm going to have to call it a day. Then we have the environmental impact, because grass, our land needs to be grazed, it needs to be managed. You're only going to manage it if you're making money off it. If that land is lying That's not good for the environment, it's not good for the look of the place, and it's very difficult then to get that land back into a position where you can farm again. If we lose the skills that farm families have built up over 4 and 5 generations, it's going to be very hard to get them back. To affect everybody, it's going to affect farmers, it's going to affect retailers. So for every item that moves across that border, there's going to be an additional cost on that. So that'll affect the price of food, it'll affect logistics and the lorry trade, it'll affect because they'll have to do more work, there'll be more papers to be filled out. The whole thing is just very worrying in terms of how we work in the future. And I've watched and looked at other models that are crossing that European boundary, and what they see as being a fairly acceptable soft border. As an Irish Republican, I would not find it acceptable to have that type of border dividing our country.
Don't buy into all of the fear. You know, I'm a unionist. It would be very easy to stereotype me and say, oh, there's the dinosaur unionist parties and they want to resurrect the border. We haven't spoken about the border once throughout this entire campaign. The people who have spoken about the border and spread fear about the border have been the people on the Remain side, and they've used it as a weapon to bludgeon people and tell them, oh, you better not do this or else the border will come back. I've no intention of wanting to bring the border back. If the Republic of Ireland wants to reinstate the border by telling its 27 or 26 other partners in the new European Union that they're in that they want the border back, go right ahead. But why would the Republic of Ireland want to damage that relationship and that standing? I find it completely false argument, and I think as good, well-established trading partners that from an English journalist, I would expect it from an American journalist, I don't expect it from people who share this island. We have moved freely across this border, with the exception of the periods of the Troubles, very, very easily. And it hasn't been the great encumbered problem that now people are trying to portray it's going to be. So I think we just need to tone it down and recognise that we can be silly about this, or we can be very sensible, and we can build a really good new relationship and build on the relationship that is already there.
I think people will wonder now how we have lots of people who are working on one side of the border, living on the other side of it. They'll be affected. There are children who go to school on one side of the border, live on the other side of it. There are people who cross that border in and out 100 times a day sometimes. You know, those people will be affected. But even people who don't live beside the border are going to be affected, because the price of their goods are probably going to go up through that administration and tariff charges. So no matter where you are in the island of Ireland, Brexit is going to affect you, and we'll work as hard as we can to ensure that we minimise that. But at the end of the day, I don't see a future in this country that is divided, that part of it's in Europe and part of it's not. And as far as I'm concerned, the only solution to that is for the 32 counties of Ireland to remain within Europe and to remain as a single entity. I think a lot of people are coming onto that point of view, whether that's farmers or businesses. You know, it just doesn't make sense for an island of the size of Ireland and the population of Ireland to be split by a European boundary.
I think that we are in for a bumpy ride. So now that you have watched and listened to local farmers, retailers and the public opinions, have that changed your opinion? Goodbye.